You might be aware by now that today is the 79th anniversary of the D-Day landings, where thousands of men sacrificed their lives for the greater good.
The thing I remember mostly, and I should never forget, is seeing our troops digging the dead bodies out of the sand on the Normandy beaches.
Bernard enlisted on his 18th birthday, determined to play his part. He was trained up as a code breaker, and on D-Day he was the youngest RAF sergeant to land in Normandy.
Oh, Bernard Morgan, what a man. I don't know about you, but when I see these kind of veterans, I get goosebumps on my arms. I just have so much respect for them, what they've been through, the horrific experiences. And I really kind of treasure hearing their stories as well, particularly as we kind of get to the point where we have so few kind of those early day veterans left. And I always hope that we don't ever forget their stories. That was D-Day veteran Bernard Morgan talking to us exclusively here at GB News. Now, when I think about that generation of men and I think about how much I respect them, quite frankly, I then do contrast it to some of what goes on in today's society. Look at this. Look at this. I mean, look at the state of it, guys. These are two fellas in the broad daylight, just walking, brazen as anything, into a shop, picking up whatever it is that they feel like, shoving it under their arms and charging out of the door. That is a really odd story, by the way, because the CEO of that business fired the two shop assistants for getting involved. He says he's got a company policy that you don't intervene in matters like that. It's safety first, you stand back, which I find very odd, because if you're going to tell your workers not to intervene, aren't you just then opening it up for people to just wander into your store and rob you in broad daylight? All a bit weird if you ask me, but the flip side of that is, would you be a shop assistant and tackle robbers? I'm not sure if I would. But it all gets me thinking on the broader point of the youth of the day. Yes, I know that there are some decent ones among them, but there are many that do not respect law and order, do not respect their elders, and many people will call for a return to national service, or a modern-day national service. Do you think we could have that, Ben?
Well, when I was younger, I was a great advocate for bringing back national service. I thought it was a natural that we should be doing. You know, we've decimated our armed forces. We've used the peace dividend repeatedly to enrich ourselves and take away the security blanket that actually ensures peace. And I thought a really good way of getting lots of people, you know, off benefits, for example, and into some gainful employment, and indeed the rest of the population trained up and ready to fight if we need them to fight, would be through national service. But I have spoken to lots of servicemen who don't see it as positively as that. You know, they see it as a kind of imposition on the armed forces, a burden that they would have to carry, taking lots of untrained, difficult, perhaps people they wouldn't otherwise recruit, into a sophisticated, nimble army that would be held back by it. But you know, my heart says there's a lot to be said for it. There is also another aspect, I suppose, to it, which is I'm a great proponent of the state, you know, us being weaned off the state and the state ceasing to interfere in our lives. And of course, national service would be another imposition of the state in our lives.
I was going to say, Ben, that's the absolute epitome of the nanny state.
Well, I mean, I
forcing
recognised
teenagers
it,
to go on national service.
Yeah, but sometimes in life we have our positions, and then actually you can bend and flex.
Have
and
exceptions,
say, yeah, there are some exceptions rather than being right, I am a this, or I am in that box, or I am a that, because there is, you know, no denying that some of the stuff that goes on in our society now would make the eyes of many of those great chaps that I was just referencing there, it would make their eyes water. There's a huge lack of respect among many in our society, don't you think?
There is. I think there's 2 points. We sort of think of the past as a time when things were calmer and there was less crime, but that's just not reality. In the first part of the 20th century, this is the sort of 1900s, the police wouldn't go into parts of East London, wouldn't go into Shoreditch unless there was 6, 7 of them, because they were that worried about being attacked. It's just there was no media, there was no reporting was low, reporting of crime was low. So it's not the case that in the past it was some great sort of peaceful idyll. And I think on the point on national service, it was the army that lobbied very heavily. I think it was in 1963.
It was abolished in 1960.
Yeah, it was the army that lobbied most heavily, because what to do with so many unwilling, frankly, sort of diffident young people when the Army's also got a job to do. It's got tasks to do. I think the question is the right question. I think national service is the wrong answer. I think in our modern society, where we have such a more developed education system, that if the question is not being answered, actually the reform is to our education system to give people a sense of structure, civic rights, civic duty, civic sense.
But you're all
that needs to be run
assuming
through
that
it.
national service has to be military. So what you could do is you could take this universal basic income thing, which I'm opposed to en masse. You could say, right, to everyone aged, I don't know, whatever, you can pick your own age, 18 to 19, you have to do a compulsory year, or actually don't even make it compulsory, right? You can do a year of national service. It doesn't necessarily have to be military, but it can be military if you want. It could be community-based. It could be, I don't know, whatever. We can all sit and brainstorm it, but you can get a basic income for while you do it. And the objective of this is to foster community relations, get people... I'm sounding like a little bit, I make myself smile when I'm saying some of these nice huggable terms, but what I want to say is I'm trying to make you not be a little bleep, and I'm conscious that it's tea time, so I'm trying to think of all these nice, soft, huggy words to say what I mean.
I think I think there's a role for that in the sort of 50s, 60s, maybe even into the 70s. I think if our kids are going through the education system through to 16, through to 18, and don't have that sense of civic purpose and civic sense, it's through the education system that's the best lever, because to have that on top in their teens costs money. Then there's an administrative overhead. And then how is it measured? Because it's such a short intervention, whereas if it's in school and they've got all of that wraparound, if not care, but then sort of touch points of teachers and support.
That, but there are many young people, me being one of them, I couldn't get out of school fast enough, quite frankly. I couldn't get out of school when I was supposed to be there quick enough, never mind trying to keep me there afterwards. Jim, one of my viewers, you and I, we are aligned, my friend, because you say, yes, there should be some form of national service, perhaps, he says, not in a military sense, but a compulsory service in which young people spend a year before they go to uni. Why are you assuming they would need to go to uni? You say they could plant trees, clean graffiti, etc., etc.